You believe in something, maybe a god, maybe many gods, maybe nothing at all. But whatever you believe, you were born into a species that has never, in all of recorded history, produced a culture without some form of belief in forces beyond the visible world. Not one. Every civilization, every tribe, every group of humans ever studied has constructed some version of the supernatural. That is not a coincidence. That is a clue. The question is not which religion is true, or whether any of them are. The question is far stranger than that. The question is why. Why does a brain built by evolution, a brain whose only job is survival, keep generating gods? Why does a species smart enough to invent mathematics, antibiotics, and space travel also spend enormous energy worshiping beings it cannot see, hear, or touch? The answer reaches back further than any religion. It reaches back to the very architecture of the human mind. Start with a concept called agent detection. Your brain is, at its core, a pattern recognition machine, and it is not a neutral one. It is heavily biased toward detecting agents, things with intentions, things that want something, things that can act on you. Psychologist Justin Barrett at Fuller Theological Seminary has spent decades studying this bias, which he calls the hyperactive agency detection device. The idea is simple, but its implications are enormous. Your brain is wired to assume agency behind events, even when none exists. Think about what that means in practice. You hear a sound in the dark. Your brain does not calmly calculate the probability that it is the wind versus a predator. It immediately assumes something is out there, something with intention, something that might want to harm you. That assumption, even when wrong, costs almost nothing. You tense up, you look around, nothing is there, you relax. But if the assumption goes the other way, if your brain decides it is just the wind and it turns out to be a predator, you are dead. Evolution does not reward accuracy, it rewards survival. And in a world full of actual predators, actual enemies, actual threats hiding in darkness, a brain that overdetects agents is far more likely to survive than one that underdetects them. So the bias got stronger with every generation. Your ancestors who heard a rustle in the grass and thought predator lived. The ones who thought wind died. You are the descendant of the paranoid ones. And you inherited their hair trigger agency detector, still running, in a world that no longer needs it quite so urgently. But here is where it gets interesting. That same detector does not just fire for predators, it fires for storms, for floods, for diseases, for droughts, for the movement of the sun, for death itself. Anything large, powerful, and incomprehensible triggers the same ancient circuit. Something that big, that powerful, and that able to affect your survival. Your brain says, there must be an agent behind it. There must be something that wants something. And once your brain has detected an agent in the storm, in the river, in the sun, the next move is almost automatic. Because your entire social survival depends on managing relationships with agents. You know how to appease a dominant member of your group. You know how to offer something, to perform submission, to ask for favor. These are the oldest social tools your species has. And now, faced with a powerful, invisible agent in the sky, your brain reaches for the same toolkit. You offer something, you perform, you ask. This is the origin of ritual. Not superstition, not stupidity. A highly intelligent social brain doing exactly what it was built to do, applying its most sophisticated relationship management tools to the most powerful agents it has ever detected. Anthropologist Pascal Boyer at Washington University in St. Louis spent years mapping the cognitive structure of religious belief across cultures that had no contact with each other. What he found was striking. Gods and supernatural beings across wildly different cultures share a remarkably consistent set of properties. They are almost always agents with minds, intentions, and desires. They are almost always invisible or hard to see. They are almost always more powerful than humans, and they are almost always interested in human behavior, particularly human morality. That last part is the key. Gods, across cultures, care what you do. They watch, they judge, they punish and reward. And that specific feature, the morally watching God, appears to have played a crucial role in the expansion of human societies beyond the small tribal groups your ancestors lived in. In a small group of 30 or 50 people, everyone knows everyone. Cheating, stealing, or betraying a member of the group comes with immediate social consequences. You will be seen. You will be punished. The group itself enforces cooperation, but as human groups grew larger, into hundreds and then thousands, that direct social surveillance broke down. You could not watch everyone. And people who believed they were being watched by a powerful, morally attentive God behaved differently. They cooperated with strangers. They shared resources. They honored agreements they could have broken with no human witness. Researcher Ara Norenzayan at the University of British Columbia has called this the Big God hypothesis. The idea that belief in a powerful, watchful, morally concerned deity was not just a comfort or an explanation for the unknown. It was a social technology, a mechanism for extending cooperation and trust beyond the limits of personal acquaintance. Big gods made big societies possible. And once a society had that technology, it had an enormous advantage over societies that did not. It could coordinate larger armies. It could build larger structures. It could sustain trade networks over longer distances. The societies with the most powerful, most watchful, most morally demanding gods tended to outcompete the ones without them. And so the belief spread. Not necessarily because it was true, but because it worked. Now look at yourself. You live in a world where the original triggers for agent detection, the storms, the floods, the predators, have been largely explained and managed by science and technology. And yet, belief in supernatural agents remains one of the most widespread features of human cognition on the planet. Roughly 84% of the global population report some form of religious belief. The brain that evolved to detect predators in the dark is still detecting agents in the thunder, in the suffering, in the unexplained. You cannot reason your way out of a reflex, and agent detection is a reflex. Knowing why you feel watched in an empty room does not stop you feeling watched. Knowing why storms feel meaningful does not stop them feeling meaningful. The mechanism runs beneath the level of conscious belief, beneath the level of reason, in the same ancient circuitry that kept your ancestors alive long before the first temple was ever built. So the real reason humans started believing in gods was not ignorance, it was intelligence. It was a brain so sophisticated in reading intention, so expert at managing relationships with powerful agents, that it could not stop applying those skills to the entire universe. It looked at the world and saw what it always sees: something out there, something watching, something that might want something from you. The gods were never separate from the mind that created them. They were always, in some sense, its most elaborate product. A species so gifted at reading other minds that it began to find minds everywhere it looked, even in the sky, even in the dark, even in the silence just before the storm. You believe in something, and now you know why that was almost inevitable.